Where is Cleopatra's tomb? The most powerful woman in history vanished without a trace, and today we are going to find her. Her legend began in 69 BC when she and her twin brother, the pharaoh Ptolemy XIII, took the throne of ancient Egypt. They ruled over a kingdom that spanned from the Sudan in the south to the Levant in the north, with a navy that controlled the Mediterranean. Wealthy merchants and scholars came from all over the known world to visit the Egyptian capital of Alexandria, where Cleopatra and her family lived in a palace made of white stone, gold, and precious jewels. It was here, in this grand city by the sea, that Cleopatra's story ended. But let's rewind a little. To understand where Cleopatra's tomb might be, we have to look back at how she died. And there's some debate about that, too. According to Roman historians like Plutarch and Cassius Dio, Cleopatra fell in love with the great conqueror Mark Antony, and they had a son together named. But when Octavian, who would become the first emperor of Rome, learned of their relationship, he went to war against them, defeated and facing execution at the hands of her former lover, Mark Antony. Cleopatra famously took her own life by allowing an ASP, an Egyptian snake, to bite her. But other historians argue that this version of events was pure propaganda spread by Cleopatra's enemies to tarnish her name, and they may be right. According to a different account, Cleopatra didn't kill herself, but was actually murdered by Octavian's forces, perhaps because he wanted to send a message to anyone else who might dare to oppose him. Whatever the truth, when her physician, the Greek historian and philosopher Pausanias Cassius, tried to retrieve her body from Octavian so that she could be given a proper burial, he was denied. As a compromise, he did the next best thing and mummified her instead, placing her in a stone coffin and burying her somewhere in Alexandria. But despite what you might think, archaeologists haven't found any evidence of her tomb. So where is Cleopatra's final resting place? Over the centuries, a number of tombs have been proposed as Cleopatra's, but none have been proven to be hers. In 1871, workers renovating a house in Alexandria uncovered a secret chamber containing mummies. This underground tomb contained one decorated with the Greek inscription, "To the memory of a woman of the Caesars," and another engraved with the image of a sphinx. Was this Cleopatra's tomb? Some experts thought so. After all, these images and inscriptions were consistent with the kind of funerary architecture the Egyptians produced during Cleopatra's lifetime. But a few years later, X-ray technology revealed that the bones buried in the sarcophagi were not those of Cleopatra or any of her family members. Instead, they belonged to a man and two women who had died around the year 100, more than 200 years before Cleopatra was even born. Another promising lead came in 1900, when a team of archaeologists excavated a large burial complex near the Temple of Osiris in Alexandria. Inside, they discovered the intact tomb of a member of Cleopatra's dynasty, the 12th dynasty. This discovery was huge news at the time, and people flocked from all over the world to see the recently dead pharaoh for themselves. Sadly, they were disappointed. Although the mummy was well preserved, it turned out to belong to a man named Tabuti, who had died in 50 BC, several decades before Cleopatra's time. Still, something about this tomb felt off to the excavators. The remains of Tabuti and his wife had been interred in 2 separate sarcophagi, which seemed unusual for Egyptian burial custom. And while excavating, they also noticed traces of color on the walls, where once vibrant paintings had adorned them. Could Cleopatra's tomb have been here originally? Perhaps it was deliberately dismantled and moved. After all, archaeologists have found no record of this particular tomb in any ancient accounts, inscriptions, or pieces of art. Maybe it was purposely hidden to keep her final resting place secret. Or maybe it was destroyed by treasure hunters looking to plunder her grave. To find answers, scientists analyzed the bones of Tabutas and his wife, comparing their DNA with the scant genetic material available from Cleopatra and her children. What they found was that the 2 people buried in this tomb were related, but only by marriage. This meant that they weren't Cleopatra's ancestors, and that their bodies had been placed in this tomb after it had been robbed, potentially to confuse future explorers. Beth, if they were planted there after the tomb had been robbed, then where did the original occupants go? And if this wasn't Cleopatra's resting place, then where is she? A lot of clues point toward a spot not far away. An ancient lighthouse built in the 3rd century BC, possibly by Cleopatra's grandfather, Ptolemy II. This structure, known as the Pharos of Alexandria, was one of the tallest buildings in the ancient world, standing up to 400 feet high and visible 4 miles across the Mediterranean. According to legend, Cleopatra added to the lighthouse, turning it into a mausoleum for herself, her children, and other members of her dynasty. But we don't have much to go on except the stories of ancient writers. We do know, however, that a library once stood nearby, which housed thousands upon thousands of scrolls and attracted scholars from across the ancient world. When the library burned down in the 2nd century AD, the historian Pliny the Younger reported seeing its charred remains, including a broken statue of Cleopatra. If the mausoleum was close enough to the library for her statue to have been part of the same collection, then it must have been relatively close. The remains of the library were located in the 1990s, and scientists believe the mausoleum could have been right next door. After the Arab conquest of Alexandria in the 7th century, the city's old landmarks were torn down and rebuilt. Archaeologists have found fragments of the lighthouse in mosques, houses, and public baths. Meanwhile, an underwater harbor built by Cleopatra herself has been transformed into a graveyard for ships. It's entirely possible that her tomb suffered the same fate. In fact, the idea that Cleopatra's remains might rest under the sea isn't a new one. In 1737, a French explorer named Jean-Baptiste Bourgois claimed to have found her sunken palace while searching for a rumored underwater city. He described the discovery of an entire city buried beneath the waves, complete with palaces, obelisks, and statues. While modern archaeologists have yet to verify Bourgois' claims, many artifacts recovered from the sea around Alexandria, including fragments of sculpture and pieces of ancient shipwrecks, prove that such a discovery isn't outside the realm of possibility. Today, scientists are investigating another intriguing clue. Just offshore from Alexandria, satellite images have revealed the outline of a massive, possibly artificial island. Scientists believe this could be the location of Cleopatra's palace and mausoleum, which may explain why her tomb has never been found. It's possible that her body was laid to rest here, and that her remains are still under the sea. But why? Why cover up such an important archaeological site? We can only speculate, but perhaps it was done to prevent others from desecrating her body or stealing her treasures. Either way, we may never know exactly where Cleopatra's tomb is. Only that she is gone and will never come back again. Cleopatra's story captivated the world, and it's no surprise that she has inspired countless works of art throughout history. You can see her story told in books like The Egyptian by Meek, on the big screen, in films like Cleopatra, and in musicals like the hit show 6. Thanks for coming on this journey through history with us. Boo. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to like and subscribe to our channel for more unsolved mysteries. See you next time.